Hey guys, so I showed you how to create a list view in React Native using FlatList, and you see it right here. And we're using infinite scrolling, so you can scroll forever, and we're fetching data from an API. And I also showed you how to create pagination in GraphQL with suggestions here. So we set a limit and offset, and then we can grab different results. So what I want to do is mix these together today and show you how to use basically your own GraphQL backend to power this React Native application. Now, if you don't know what these two projects are, I'll have links in the description below to get the code or to watch the videos to get up to speed on them. So I'm just going to hop over here to terminal real quick. And first, I'm going to start up my GraphQL server with npm start. I already have my React Native application up and running, but what I do want to do is go ahead and do yarn add React Apollo. This is a library we're going to be using to make GraphQL requests from React Native. Now I have my project here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up into two components. So I'm going to call that app.js. Then we create another one called index.js. And this one is just going to export default, and it's going to actually import React from React, and then import app from app. So we're just rendering the app here. And the reason why I want to create like this separate index page is because we need to set up a GraphQL provider or Apollo provider, and I want to do that here and have my app in like a different place. So I have this here, and now I'm going to go ahead and import some stuff from React Apollo. Now here is the setup and options for React Apollo. We're just going to do the basic one right here. I'm going to copy it over and I'll paste and explain what this does. Okay, so our Apollo client here, we're just basically creating, and then we're going to have to actually put it in with our application, and we do that with an Apollo provider. So Apollo provider should wrap your application, and you want to make sure to call this, any components that need GraphQL need to be in between the Apollo provider tags. Alright, and then we also need to specify the client. And the client here is just, we put this in here so we can specify the URL to our GraphQL server. So I'm going to go ahead and just do create network interface so we can have this all on one line. Don't need this. And I'll put the URI. So right here what you want to put is the place where you have your GraphQL server. Now, my server is at localhost 3000, and I do HTTP. Now, this will be different depending on whether you're Android or iOS. So, important to know, iOS can access localhost. Android, it's different. I think it's like 1.92 or something. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it is. But if you're on Android, you can try doing localhost, but it probably won't work for you. I'm going to put a link in the description below of what, there's like good Stack Overflow about how you access localhost from Android emulator. But since I'm on iOS, localhost will work for me. I do /:3000 and then /GraphQL. Okay, so reformat everything. We got our correct thing here. We got our Apollo provider wrapping our app. So now our app can actually make a GraphQL query. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to get rid of exporting it here and go ahead and export default app here. And the reason for that is we're actually going to need to wrap it with some GraphQL tags. So we're going to import GraphQL and GQL, both from React Apollo. And then I'm going to come back down here, and I'm going to say GraphQL, and then we can call our app. And now we need to specify in here what our query is going to be. And I think our query is going to be, what do we want to call it? Fetch, we'll call it get suggestions. So now we need to go ahead and actually create this get suggestions query. And we wrap it with GQL. And right here in the middle is where we put our GraphQL query. We pass it here, and then we can access this query from our application. So get suggestions here. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Now, I'm not going to copy just that because we actually want to pass in some variables. So I'm going to say query, and there's two variables we want to pass in, right? So the first one is the limit. So I'm going to say $limit is going to be a int, and then the $offset is going to be an int as well. And we just put a colon. Okay. And then we're going to pass in these variables here. $limit, $offset. And I'm going to grab the ID and the text. So now I can copy this query, paste it here, and now when my component loads, this query will get executed. Now, assuming I didn't do anything wrong, we should be able to come back and reload our over here our application, and we should see no errors. And nothing should have changed, right? We're just now making a call to GraphQL 2. We haven't rendered any of the data or anything. And okay, we did something wrong. The operation data wrapping app is expecting a variable limit. Oh, I forgot to pass the limit. So here we need to get suggestions, and then we need to pass in the variables. So the variables for this are 2, so the limit. The starting limit is going to be 0, or sorry, the limit is going to be what? How many did we do up here? Results 15, so we'll put 15 here. And our offset is the one that's going to be 0. Okay. So save that, and that looks good. Now let's see if the error goes away. And I accidentally clicked on, so you saw that just popped up. I accidentally clicked on one of these. Reload, wrapping is expecting a variable limit, but it was not found in props passed to Apollo. Okay, so it's expecting the props, which we don't want to add, right? We're not passing the props in. We could actually do that. Why not? We could pass in limit and over here in our index. So limit is equal to 15 and offset is equal to 10. Or 0, I mean. I thought we could pass it just right here. And there might be a way to do that. If this doesn't work, we'll check out the docs, but I believe now we should be passing these in. Okay. I keep clicking on that on accident. But okay, we're making the call, and now we see this here. So now, looks like everything's working. We next want to actually render this in our list. So I'm going to stop fetching data. I'm not going to, component will mount. We're no longer going to fetch data on, because we're going to automatically fetch data with GraphQL. Here, instead of page, I'm going to say offset. Loading, we can keep, that's fine. And then here, our fetch data is going to be different. Instead of fetching data like so, and then setting the state with data, we're actually not going to get our data from the state. We're going to get it from the props. And then set state, this handle end looks okay. We're not going to be setting the state for data, so we don't need to pass in a function, because now we're just going to do loading here, and then this stuff is not going to happen here. Okay, so now we're going to say this dot data dot our query name, so get suggestions, or actually it's not going to be this name, it should be some suggestions dot fetch, I think it's fetch more. Yep, fetch more looks like it is. And now we can pass in our variables. And the two variables is expecting is the limit, which we're going to keep at 15, and the offset, which is going to be this dot state dot offset. So whatever the offset's at. And then here, instead of at handle in, we're going to say offset, and we're going to say state dot offset is going to be equal to itself plus state dot limit. That way we're fetching, we're incrementing by the amount we're limiting, so we see a new batch every time. And actually, there's one problem with this I just thought of. We will not be able to scroll up. I'll show you guys the problem we're going to incur in a second. So let's just review what our code looks like right now. So this fetch data function is now first putting in loading, then we're fetching more data, and we're doing this data. This should be coming from the props. You might be wondering how we're getting this data some suggestions thing, and that is coming from Apollo data. When we pass in GraphQL here, it actually adds that in for us. And actually should be like that, I believe. We might get some errors the first time. What I'll do is in the render function, we're just gonna need a console.log this.props to make sure we're calling all the right stuff. And then here, every time we get to the end, we're incrementing the offset and then plussing the limit, which is good. Okay, so I got my flat list here. Now the data is going to be coming from the props, and it's going to be .data.SumSuggestions. And this might be null. So when we are first loading, some suggestions might not be there. So what we're going to do is say const data is equal to this dot props dot data dot some suggestions or an empty list in case it is null. And then we'll pass in the data here. And then on reach, we would pass that. Same thing, all the same thing is going to be put there, but now we're going to get rid of the image because we don't have an image with ours. And the only thing here is going to be text. Item.text. And now text is coming from this guy right here. And now that we're also getting the ID, what we could do for the key extractor is actually say get the ID and return that. So we could grab the ID and return that. And that's a better use of the key than the index. Okay. I think we're going to get some errors, but we'll get a console log and we'll be able to fix them after that. And hey, it actually is just working. We're actually going to be infinitely loading, which is not good because I don't have enough items in my list. So let's go fix that real quick. So we have GraphQL up here. Let's make a mutation, create suggestion, creator ID, I think it was 5, text, I'm going to say hello, and then board ID, I think was 1. Alright, I'm just going to spam create a ton of these things. Alright, so we have, 37 of them. So now, when we refresh, there should be more. And now, okay, update query option is required. So we need to implement update query. I forgot about that. But we're at least rendering more on the initial, and that's good, and we're not infinitely calling. Okay, let's implement update query. So if we come over here, there's a section called pagination where it talks about using fetch more, and we're doing this offset based. So this is exactly what we're doing right now. We're doing offset based, and now we passed in our variables, but we also need to do an update query. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to change it for what our data looks like. So coming up here, this is going to be passed into our fetch more. We're going to add a comma here. So previous result, fetch more result. Looks like we're just returning this. And okay, append the new feed. Ours should not be called feed. I'm not sure what it's going to be called, so I'm going to do a console.log and previous result to see what that looks like. I think it should be previous result and fetch more result. Fetch more. I think these are just going to be arrays. I think I could literally just do this and then return that. But we're about to find out if this will work. Okay, so our update query for here is so this is if you don't understand what the update query is doing, it's basically saying we're fetching more data, and it's saying, what do you want to do next? How do you want to change? You got new data, which they're going to give us here, and you have old data from a query you did before. How do you want to combine these together? And for us, we just want to basically combine the two arrays, like so. So let's see what that looks like. So we're scrolling, and nothing is happening. Offset got invalid. Offset got invalid value null. Okay, dismiss. Offset should never be limit here. The limit should be hard coded. So at the top here, I'm going to say const limit is equal to 15. So down here when I said, I was going to say we're not doing it. Okay, yeah. All the places we're using limit, we should just pass in like that. That way we reuse it. So then right here, instead of this dot state dot limit, we're going to pass in limit. Okay. Now refresh. Missing some suggestion, missing fields, some suggestion in this. Okay, so our update query didn't work, but when we console log, we should figure it out. And also, I just thought of a better way to do this. Instead of adding limit to the top, we're already passing limit from the props, and it's not going to change from there. So we should just be doing this.props.limit. And same thing for this guy. Okay. Now, I'm going to come over here to console, and I can do React Native log iOS to see what is going on. So here we should see our two objects getting printed to the console. And I'm going to refresh because I don't think I need to have the console open before I can do that. All right, so now we should see them, and we do. So it looks like some suggestion. It's an object with an array some suggestions. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. So we need to be creating an object, some suggestions here, which is an array. So we need to mirror what the data looks like. So this, we're going to get some suggestions, and here we're going to do the same thing. And now we should be good. So we want our object that we're returning here to mirror what we're getting from previous result. And if we refresh, should scroll, and I think we're just running out of items, but you'll notice how we're able to see all the hellos. If I come back over here and I'm going to add by a bunch of times, we can see scroll to by. Now come back over here. Oh, it's not fetching more. I thought it would, maybe because we already hit the end of the list, we need to just refresh. But okay, notice how long this bar is over here. Let's see if it gets longer. Yeah, it does. Now we're able to get to buy. See how it's loading more? Nice. Alright, so that is it for this video, guys. We're all done. We can clean this up by getting rid of these console logs. But we got everything working. This is how you can do offset-based pagination in GraphQL. You'll have your limit and your offset variables, and you'll use fetch more. And when you fetch more, you update what the limit and the offset are going to be. Limit stays the same the whole time, but our offset, you'll notice we change in the state here, and just incrementing what that value is. And now the offset I'm incrementing by limit, you could you could increase that as much as you want, but this is a good one to do because then you won't get any duplicates. And then in our update query, we're just basically appending whatever the results we get to what we previously had. And that's it. We keep the loading the same, but we have our own, paginated list being displayed. This is our own, we're calling our own API to display this. So now you can get this to work with any data you want to create it with, display it. There's one last thing I want to do before I quit with doing this video series on lists and pagination. I want to show you cursor-based pagination. And this is very good when your list gets big, because right now offset pagination is perfectly fine, but if you get into like the millions of rows of data, then it will not work. It will not scale to that very well. It'll become pretty slow. It won't become super slow, but cursor base will be faster for you. So that's what I'll be showing you guys next. And I'll see you guys in the next video.